I kept thinking to myself, what are Arsenal doing that is allowing teams to sort of get goals out of nowhere when we're in such control? Now what I've got here is Arsenal's intensity drop 10 minutes before conceding the first goal. We've got the Liverpool numbers, we've got the West Ham numbers. Now these are all Arsenal stats. So 5 shots we had in the first 30 minutes against Liverpool, 3 shots on target, 3 big chances. In the 10 minutes before conceding that goal, not a single shot, not a single one on target, of course, and no big chance. Okay, attacking third passes went up. So that tells you that actually we've still got a lot of the ball in key areas, but providing nothing from that. Our take-ons dropped from 10 to 2. Our crosses dropped from 5 to 1. Our pass into the penalty area, okay, only half, 2 to 1. Ball recoveries, 19 down to 3. But our pass completion goes up because we're comfortable. Well, that might not necessarily be a bad thing because they're trying to retain possession. They're in a comfortable area of the pitch. But that is a massive intensity drop. For 10 minutes before the goal conceded against Liverpool, we weren't asking the same questions. And the exact same thing against West Ham. From minute 0 to 22, again, 3 shots, 2 on target, 2 big chances, 38 attacking third passes drops down to 6. 8 take-ons drops down to 1. 4 crosses drops down to 1. 4 passes into penalty area drops down to 0, and 12 ball recoveries drops down to 2. No shots. If you don't do anything with the ball for 10 minutes, the team are going to go, okay, why don't we just press a little bit here? Why don't we just see if we can get into them a little bit there? And that's what Declan Rice did. On Partey wins the ball back penalty 2-1.
Well, it's one thing not doing anything with the ball. From the ball recoveries, that's the one that sticks out to me the most. Going down from 19 to 3 against Liverpool and 12 to 2 against West Ham. That shows that off the ball, the intensity wasn't quite there either. And a lot of people looked at that Xhaka moment with Trent as the turning point, but in my opinion, the turning point is us going 2-0 up. And I think the evidence is in the numbers here. It's just like something switches, and at 2-0 up, there is that saying, 2-0 is the worst score. And I don't agree with that saying because I think 1-0 is worse than 2-0. But at 2-0, that saying comes from the fact that your mind can then be put at ease that we're going to get the job done. And against Liverpool, when we went 2-0 up, I didn't say it out loud, but I thought we're going to get the job done. Against West Ham 2-0 up, I thought 3 points in the bag. But I don't want the players to be thinking that, because this is the Premier League. I mean, 100%. We always say the Premier League is the most intense league in the world. Anyone can beat anyone on their day. And in the last couple of games, we found out that taking our eye off the ball, regardless of being 2-0 up and in control, it can cost us, and it's cost us big at a time when a team like Manchester City are chasing us. It's the wrong time.
And look, Man City, they let off a little bit against Leicester, but they've got the Champions League to think about. They've got an FA Cup semi-final. They were 3-0 up and well into the second half. Arsenal here, they've only played 30 minutes of football. They've only played 20 minutes of football. And these drop-offs are staggering. And you're right, it is the ball recoveries. 19 in 30 minutes. 3 in 10. Now, okay, I know 30 minutes is longer than 10 minutes, but you know that should be, what's a third of 19? 6, 7, whatever. You know, that should be as well. We're talking about a third, you know, a third of the 30 minutes compared to that. That should be 6. You know, Arsenal's intensity 100% dropped, and that is really worrying, because it's like they get into that position, and we're on the WhatsApp group with Jordan. He was saying, "Go for it now." Finish them, get it done. And they didn't. Now, I kind of forgave against Liverpool because I can understand 2-0, there's something to protect there. There's something like...
It's Anfield, It's
Anfield, you know, and actually they were throwing some punches, Liverpool, to be fair to them. But against West Ham, that is really, really poor. Let me, well, actually, touching on this, I want to talk about something else, just some of the goals and errors we have conceded in games very, very recently, and why we've been blowing some of these leads. I look at some of the goals. These are just notes. These aren't stats, numbers. This is just notes. I just write my thoughts down. But let's start with more recently. You know, Partey trying to flick it over Declan Rice in the middle of the pitch. Gabriel diving in for the penalty. By the way, I don't think those should be penalties. Do you think it was a penalty?
No.
I don't think they should be penalties.
I think it was very soft. I
think incredibly soft.
Listen, I get it. Gabriel going down. He was rash in going down, and he gives Paqueta the option. So I think that's the first mistake there. But when you look at it in slow-mo, when you look at the amount of contact made, when you look at the fact Paqueta was looking for it, I wouldn't be giving those because it sets precedent. But we've seen VAR and these referees set precedent for the last 3, 4, 5 years now, and football's changing an awful lot. Any form of contact now, it's given in the favour of the attacker. I
agree. And look, this isn't a salty Arsenal fan talking about Tottenham. Well, it is a little bit. But in that one game to this one game, you got a Declan Rice handball, which was as much of a handball as the McAllister one, where they disallow the Welbeck goal, and then you got a stamp on Matoma's foot, not given, and you got a Gabriel one. Now I get different game, different ref, I hear it, but come on. Like, it should be literally flipped. Those two should, in my opinion, be goals and not penalties. And a penalty for Brighton against Tottenham. And in this one, I think we were a little unlucky with both. But I don't like the way Arsenal get rattled under an error. What Thomas Partey did in that moment, stupid. Don't do it. Why are you doing that? We're comfortable. Having said that, it's the way... I know it's one touch and then a pass from Rice, but it's like the panic. Stay on your feet, defend, and maybe force him to make a save, force a save out of Ramsdale. The minute you go down, you know what they're looking for. And you saw then the way Paqueta's arms were in the air before he'd even made contact, because he thought, and players are smart with this, if I just touch this into the right area and I know he's coming, I'm going to look for this because I fancy a pen over.
His touch was heavy as well, so to be honest, that's the only option he had. Hope for some contact, go down, because if Gabriel didn't go down rashly, then I think we would have defended that situation. I don't think he would have had the opportunity for a shot on goal because his touch was so baggy. But
completely agree. And you look at those errors and they feel so frustrating. Holding penalty against Liverpool, cool, they didn't capitalise on it, but then Zinchenko nutmegged. Now again, I'm not going at these players, I'm just, when you add it all up, soft goal against Leeds at 3-0 up, soft goal against Palace, goal from distance against Sporting that you're like, ugh. Again, it can happen. It's pinpoint, but sure. Turner Kivior confusion in the Sporting away leg. Too easy for Sporting on the second goal I've just put there. Goal from kick-off and a set piece against Bournemouth. You know, a lot of these goals, you look at and you go, in the moment you can forgive them, especially if you've won. You can understand that something happened or you got caught off guard or whatever. But when you start to tally them up, you start to think, this is just a bit shit, guys.
Yeah, you can't go from zero. Like, we can't go from 0 to 100 because you go 2-0 up. You get confident, you get a bit arrogant with it. I can understand that. But as soon as you concede, it's like you're going from 0 to 100. You're going from arrogant and confident to rattled and all over the gaff. There's no middle ground there.
You're right, you're spot on.
There's no like regroup, let's get a foot back into this game. Let's, get back to our basics and go again. It's that we concede and then it's all hands on deck for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree. Another reason, and look, people are going to go, really? You're talking about Rob Holding? How do I phrase this right? Rob Holding, I don't think did anything like clippable wrong, if that makes sense. Yeah. Where you see a moment and you go, here, Rob Holding, bad, that was bad. But I definitely think that in the absence of Saliba, especially, and we saw it especially in this West Ham game, there's a little bit more of a, I don't know how to explain it, like, Arsenal don't look as comfortable playing out the back and we seem to be going a little bit more long ball, but also there seems to be a bigger gap between the press and the defence. I don't feel like we're congesting and dominating that area and we're keeping teams pinned in. I think a lot of that is down to the fact that Rob Holding, or nor is Ben White overlapping, and I think a lot of that is because there is a bit of protection for Rob Holding's shortcomings, if you like. Here's Antonio's touch map. Now at first look you go, cool, a little bit everywhere, that makes sense. But if you split this in half, let's do that, let's get the square, and let's do it in yellow, fine. If you split the pitch in half, I'm gonna have to come all the way to your side there. It is still about 18 touches a counter. 1, 2, 3, we'll give them that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then 18. It's still about 17, 18 touches in the Rob Holding half for Antonio, compared to here where it's about 10, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. It still is more Rob Holding heavy. And I can't help but feel that that is on purpose.
100%. Teams are going to target him. When we've got our first 11 there's not many chinks in our armour from defence all the way to attack. But when we've got people filling in certain positions, it gives the opposition opportunity to target and get an advantage out of it. And, you started with Rob Holding, didn't do anything clippable, and I'm with you on that. I think overall Rob Holding's come in and been an adequate backup, but his deficiencies are highlighted more in this modern day Arsenal because we need our centre backs to be proactive on the front foot, read the game well, interception, nick the ball in front of the attacker, and Rob Holding's an old school type of centre back. So the reality is when we see him come in, not only defensively is he targeted, but offensively we don't build as efficient enough. We're not quick in the transition enough. I mean, the last 10 minutes of the game, I don't want to, fast forward too much, but the last 10, 15 minutes of a game where you have a team, any team, chasing a league title or looking to defend their lead at the top, you'd expect that team to have the majority of possession, the majority of chances created. You'd expect the opposition to have all hands on deck. There was none of that.
No, I agree.
There was none of that. West Ham probably looked the more proactive team in terms of trying to find another goal.
100%.
And I think a lot of that does stem from the fact that playing around defence too much, you don't have Saliba who's confident on the ball, can drive with it and split the lines with a pass. Rob Holding doesn't have that in his locker, so there was a lot of long balls to nothing. We don't have the attacking personnel to cope well with long balls. Yes, Jesus is great with his back to goal, but at the same time, you know, he wants it into his feet more than he wants it into his head or his chest.
I completely agree. And how do you keep a team pinned in, especially when West Ham are smelling a victory perhaps, and you want Ben White to overlap to help Saka? I think that's part of why we've seen Saka struggle a little bit in recent games, because when you've got Saliba, Ben White's happier to vacate that space, so he overlaps and Saka isn't as outnumbered. But you haven't had that dynamic. Yes, White overlapped for the goal, I hear it, but that was within 5 minutes of the game. After that, we didn't see as much of it. And I completely agree. We didn't draw this game. I say we didn't draw because of Rob Holding. I'm going to show you something in a little bit. But largely, I don't think the performance, I'm not looking, 4 points dropped in 2 games, Rob Holding's the reason. It's not that. But why are Arsenal not controlling like we did Fulham away, like we did Brentford, other games where we did keep our foot on the gas? And I do think it's because there's a slight handbrake on, a slight reluctance to fully commit in the way we were. And I think that is allowing teams back into it. And that's why I think we've blown back-to-back leads.